Hello, Dave Kasch here. If you're new, welcome. If you're not new, welcome back. Excited to have you here. Today I want to talk about the process of change. In working with clients and teams, I found that all of it really revolves around a 3-step process for change to actually happen in our lives. And whether that's change at a big organizational level or at a deep personal individual level, these 3 steps are still present, and each one is an essential part of us getting to a goal, an outcome, something of difference in our lives or our roles. Now, as we tease this model apart, we're going to talk about each of the 3 steps, and then we're going to put them together. Now, I call this model the NOC Model, N-O-C, NOC. And NOC stands for Name It, Own It, Choose It. This model is like some of the other pieces on my channel. It's not necessarily a model that I created, but I'm offering you my adaptation and my simplification of it, because I've seen versions of this model, but never ever quite the way that I'm going to offer it to you. So I think one of the ways to help make this model really useful for you is, let's have an example. Let's say I'm a team lead. I've got a team of 6 folks, and I want our team meetings to be much more conversational, something more akin to brainstorming and collaborating as we share ideas and try and find the best ideas or refine our ideas to be even better as a group. But what I'm currently experiencing is the team is quieter than I want them to be when we meet. I think they've got contributions, I think they've got criticisms and insights, but they just aren't offering them in the way that I feel like they could be. Tackling that head on, going into a meeting saying, hey team, I feel like you're holding back. You're not saying what you really have to say, is not gonna be the lean into psychological safety and comfort that the team needs. Because if I'm really honest and I take a moment to say what's going on here, we start with the name it part. Right? The first step in this process is to name the challenge or the struggle or the opportunity. This step draws a lot on Keegan's subject-object relationship, which I've talked about in other videos on this channel. The core idea is that when we are subject to something, we don't even know it's happening. It is just woven into our existence. And the opportunity, the goal, is to take that subject and make it object for us. So let's say, for example, in these meetings, I'm dominating the meeting. I'm talking so much that my team can't get a word in edgewise, or maybe I'm offering critiques right when they start to offer ideas and I'm shutting them down. But I don't even recognize that I'm doing that. So this naming process can be an expansive and slow process sometimes of really digging into what's happening here, right? This is the truth-telling stage of this model. And the more that we can be honest and truthful and vulnerable in naming the thing, the more successful we're going to be in really creating that change we want. So let's say I'm working with a coach, and in that time with the coach, I've really been able to nail down, I'm dominating the conversation and I'm critiquing too early. That's just the naming part. The second step then is owning it. And this second step is the messy middle. This is the heavy lift of this model. What we have to do is really lean into owning our part of this situation that we named in the first step. If I'm dominating the meeting, I really have to own, I'm doing this. I'm doing a thing to my team that is shutting them down. In this, I'm looking to take 100% responsibility for my part of this, right? And also acknowledging, right? I'm shutting my team down and my team is shutting down, right? They've got a portion of this too, but I can't own their portion of it. I can own my portion of it. I can own that I'm dominating the meeting and I'm critiquing too early. Now, I may have good intention, I may have a reason why I'm doing either or both of those, and that might be part of what we surface in this owning it, but we're not going to own it in a way that's an excuse. I'm dominating because they're not talking. It's an excuse. I'm not owning anything. I'm dominating because I want our team to have productive meetings. I'm dominating because it's important to me that our team has really productive meetings. I'm dominating because I have some expectation that I probably haven't surfaced, certainly one that I haven't talked about with the team. And that's part of this owning it process. We might start to name other pieces that we have to name to really take full ownership. So in this example, if I'm dominating a team meeting, I have to lean into all of the reasons I might feel like I need to dominate, or that might be adding to me behaving in this dominating or domineering way. None of this is bad. The part that we have to give ourselves some grace here is what we name and what we own is not good or bad. It's probably not what we want. If we had a choice, it's not the thing that we would do or say. And that's okay. That's part of where this is a discovery process where we can lean in on our curiosity of what's happening here. And so if I'm dominating meetings, if I'm speaking too much, or if I'm speaking over people, let me roll it back. That too much was a judgment. If I'm speaking a lot and I'm speaking over people, right? Those are two concrete behaviors that I can start to shift on. And I can own, these are things I'm doing. If a neutral third party, a video camera, was focused in on the meeting, what behaviors would they see me doing? And then how do I start to really take full ownership without judgment of those behaviors? How do I say, yes, I'm doing those things? It's not good or bad. It's not the thing that I wish I were doing. And I'd like to change what I'm doing in those situations. Cool. That's where we get to use this model to actually create that change. So once we've leaned into naming it and owning it, and again, I'll tell you, the owning part is the hardest part. It's the hardest for me. It's the hardest for all of the clients that I work them through some process of change. But when we do that ownership part well, when we really take full ownership of the things that we're doing and saying, the opportunity to choose that third step, choose it, becomes so much easier. Because the thing that we want to choose becomes clearer. In this situation, if I am speaking over people, if I am speaking a lot in meetings, and I want to create a process, I want to create meetings where my team feels more comfortable sharing freely, I've got two behaviors right there that I can choose to do differently. I can choose to speak less. I can choose to speak last, right? Give other folks time to surface their ideas before I say anything. I can choose to hold my critique, especially once I know and recognize that I'm doing that. If I'm critiquing right away, it might be because I'm excited about their idea. I see some real gold in what they're suggesting and I want to start to shape it. But maybe I'm jumping in too soon with that critique and that shaping. What if I hold back a little bit there in my critique? I create more space for members of my team to critique as well, right? Because I probably am also wanting for my team to build some of those core underlying skills that I don't feel like they have right now, or I'm not seeing when I have a meeting with them. And so this last step of choose it is the most explicit. It is where you take a stand and say, I am choosing to either continue to behave in the way that I'm behaving because there's some productive output, or I'm not ready to actually change, to make a commitment to new behavior, right? That's when we choose to stay the same, or we choose to change. I want to make a commitment. I am going to make a commitment to new behaviors. And I'm choosing to do some new things, and also recognizing that you're going to make mistakes. You're going to have missteps. You're going to make that commitment to choosing new behaviors. And what do you know? You slip right back into some of the old behaviors. And that's a place to get curious, to recognize, to say, hey, oops, I did it again. All right, that's not what I wanted to do. I'm going to give myself a do-over, or I'm just going to try again. I'm going to try to do the new behaviors that I mean to be doing, right? But all through this NOC model, this 3-step process is a process of awareness building and acting on that awareness. And the more that we build that awareness through naming it and owning it, creates more opportunity to actually act on changing when we get to choose. And our choose it step itself will also be awareness building, whether you like it or not. Right? I just talked about we're going to have missteps. And that's part of this awareness building, that there may be some piece that you haven't fully named and you haven't fully owned, and it's interrupting the change. And to that, we get to say, hey, cool. I know more about why change is hard here. Why don't I explore how I need to address or resolve this piece that is making change tricky for me? So there you have it. 3 steps of this process. Name it, own it, choose it. And again, in any process of change that you go through or you have gone through, you're gonna see this model pop up. At some point, we have to name where our challenge is and what our behaviors are. We have to own them after we name them. And then we have to get clear in our commitments. We have to choose what we do next. And again, I don't hold any judgment when clients say, I'm going to choose to do the same behavior I say I want to change, because there's some reason they're not ready to change yet, or there's something they get out of that same behavior that still is more valuable to them than the change. And we can get curious about what that is. But judgment doesn't do us any good in this process. I mean, it generally doesn't do us any good as we go through change or shifting or even awareness, right? We can be disappointed. We can feel all the feelings, but our judgment of good or bad actually just slows us down. So if I could add an asterisk to this model, it's just that gentle reminder not to judge yourself or your behaviors as you're going through this process of change. You're bound to, and when it pops up, recognize it, hold it lightly, offer yourself some gentle self-compassion to say like, hey, this is hard for you and you're still working on it. That's one of those ways that we speed up change being able to happen. We stop resisting what is right now by stop judging it. I hope this has been helpful for you. It's 3 steps and we could spend a long time teasing out each of these steps, but I'd love to hear from you, your comments, your thoughts, your observations, your criticisms, your and then, and now what? Dave, what do I do with this? All of those thoughts are welcome and encouraged. Until next time, cheers.